The manservant, Rogers, had been moistening his lips and twisting his hands. He said now in a low, deferential voice, "If I must just say a word, sir." Lombard said, "Go ahead, Rogers." Rogers cleared his throat and passed his tongue once more over his dry lips. "There was a mention, sir, of me and Mrs. Rogers, and of Miss Brady. There isn't a word of truth in it, sir. My wife and I were with Miss Brady till she died. She was always in poor health, sir, always from the same time we come to her. There was a storm, sir, that night. That night she was taken bad. The telephone was out of order. We couldn't get the doctor to her. I went for him, sir, on foot, but he got there too late. We'd done everything possible for her, sir. Devoted to her we were. Anyone will tell you the same. There was never a word said against us. Not a word." Lombard looked thoughtfully at the man's twitching face, his dry lips, the fright in his eyes. He remembered the crash of the falling coffee tray, he thought, but did not say, "Oh, yeah." Blower spoke in his hearty, bullying official manner. He said, "Came into a little something at her death, though." Rogers drew himself up. He said stiffly, "Miss Brady left us a legacy in recognition of her faithful services, and why not, I'd like to know." Lombard said, "What about yourself, Mr. Blower?" "What about me? Your name was included in the list." Blower went purple. "Lander, you mean?" "That was a bank robbery, London and commercial." Mr. Justice Wargrave stared. He said, "I remember it didn't come before me, but I remember the case. Lander was convicted on your evidence. You were the police officer in charge of the case." Bloor said, "I was. Lander got penal servitude for life and died on Term Moor a year later. He was a delicate man," Bloor said. "He was a crook. He was he who knocked out of the night watchman. The case was quite clear against him," Wargrave said slowly. "You were complimented, I think, on your able handling of the case." Bloor said sulkily, "I got my promotion." He added in a thick voice, "I was only doing my duty." Lombard laughed, a sudden ringing laugh. He said, "What a duty-loving, law-abiding lot we all seem to be, myself expected." "What about you, doctor? And your little professional mistake? Illegal operation, was it?" Emily Brent glanced at him in a sharp distance and drew herself away a little. Dr. Armstrong, very much master of himself, shook his head good humouredly. "I am at loss to understand the matter," he said. "The name meant nothing to me when it was spoken. What was it? Cleese? Close. I really can't remember having a patient of that name, or being connected with the death in any way. The thing's a complete mystery to me. Of course, it's a long time ago. It might possibly be one of my operation cases in hospital. They came too late. Too many of these people. Then when the patient dies, they always consider it's the surgeon's fault." He sighed, shaking his head. Then he thought, "Drunk, that's what it was, drunk. And I operated, nerves all to pieces, hand shaking. I killed her, all right. Poor devil, elderly women. Simple job if I'd been sober. Lucky for me, there's loyalty in our profession. The sister knew, of course, but she held her tongue. God, it gave me a shock, pulled me up. But who could have known about it after all these years?"